Hey guys, welcome back. Today I actually have for the first time a guest on my channel. So for those of you who've seen my past videos, I'm always talking about my personal experiences with mental health and what they're like for me. But I thought it would be fun since I'm here with my husband for the weekend. Well, we're always together, but for the weekend we're like staying in Austin. So I was like, well, let's just do a video talking about your experiences with mental health, especially as a man. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. So I have a few things that I want to ask him about when it comes to mental health and emotions and just kind of how you handle those things. So
Okay.
I guess just to start off, kind of just give like an overview of like your personal experience with like your own mental health, like struggles that you've had like throughout your life from, younger to now.
Okay. It's a very loaded question.
Yes. You can break it down.
Yeah. I mean, the main ones I dealt with when I was younger, and I think that's still kind of perpetuated through my adult life, are depression. Depression is the biggest one that I've on and off struggled with in the various forms that I think that can contribute to that. So body dysmorphia is another big one as well. Anxiety, I'm sure, a little bit as well. I think a lot of that kind of tethers together. They kind of feed off each other. I think a lot of times, as far as my experience goes, I tend to have domino effects with certain mental issues or just different certain emotions kind of dovetail as a response to one stimulus that may be one particular thing, right? So depression was something I struggled. I mean, I think the earliest time I could recall having like really severe bouts of being bummed out and all that good stuff, it would be probably middle school. I'd say around seventh grade, eighth grade, when you're going through that phase. I mean, a lot of it is to do with being a kind of a meek, shy kid. Took me a long time to kind of out of my shell. Honestly, it wasn't probably until college that I probably really came out into my own, socially blossomed, so to speak, and actually got more
we have that in common because I was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Just kind of more reserved, younger.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, it wasn't really even anything to do with like antisocialness, right? Because I had really close friends that would be super. With the personality that you see now, and I'm a very loud person now. I work in the fitness industry, so very much it's about being enthusiastic, being charismatic, and kind of like creating an entertaining experience for people that you're trying to essentially, get through certain barriers for themselves, right? Mental and physical. So I still had that personality back then, but only with people that I could trust enough to open up to and spend a good amount of time with.
Yeah.
To feel comfortable, I guess, bearing my personality and soul to them. But in public, at school, certainly, even in family circumstances, I was kind of very kept to myself. I never even through college, actually, never went to parties and did big massive group gatherings. I felt really anxious. That's where the anxiety part. I think I had a lot of social anxiety when it comes to that. I felt like a sore thumb. I felt like I was kind of like, people notice that I don't belong there, right?
Yeah.
Depression was one that I think it has a lot to do with certain directions that I was being pushed to in my youth from high school and onwards. When you're a kid, you have certain interests, and they're either going to get nurtured or they're going to kind of get squelched. And even as I continued through college, tried to develop my majors, switched majors several times after college to even to now, not quite knowing where I want to go with my career, because I kind of always have these in my back of my head from my youth of, well, you need to think about X, Y, Z, and pragmatism, whatever it is, financially sustainable, whatever things people try
realistic.
to say, reasons for you not to pursue things that you're interested in. I think that contributed a lot to the forming of what would be my depression apex. Like when I was at my most depressed would be those high school, college years, where I was kind of like have periods of feeling really, really good. Then I have periods of really, really, really substantial self-doubt. And, you know, 'cause, I mean, just kind of, I don't know if I don't know what the description for it would be. I guess just I was always feeling like I'm not quite in the right where I'm supposed to focus. I've told Lauren, you know, there are moments, and you know, I generally like my job now, my career now. I have ambitions to do things that are completely separate from it, you know. But even though I like mostly what I do, there will be times, and sometimes it's even on days off, right? Well, I'll just be overcome with a feeling of a feeling of defeat, the feeling of just like nothing's going anywhere. I'm just bummed, and it's a severe bum. Like I'm not talking, and I'm a very talkative person normally, very goofy person. I'm trying to compose my state, my goofiness here because this is a pretty serious matter. So, but normally I'm a very outgoing person.
We talked before this about it.
Yes. So she made it very clear that I would be quite physically abused if I acted out on this podcast or in this video or whatever we're calling it.
It's a video.
YouTube the YouTube video. So, but even with that, you know, I every now and then it just hits me. I can't even explain the genesis of it. Oftentimes, it's not because I had a bad day at work. It's not because I read something, or not because I suddenly thought of something that made me bummed. It's just all of a sudden, chemically or whatever it is, I get bummed, and then I think about things that are going wrong, or things that I wish would be different now at 29 than they are, right? The hypothetical alternative timeline where I did this instead of that. Hindsight and this and all these things. And I think that's what I start getting overcome with regret and a little bit of fear about like making changes. I don't know what your thoughts are, because I know you've had similar thoughts in the past. Obviously, you changed your career from working for just a general 9-to-5, you know, working for a company, and to working solo from home, which is I really highly admire. You know, as someone who was interested in working for himself more, was that hard for you to make that jump?
Oh yeah.
Like, well, emotionally, I guess I should say.
Yeah, emotionally it was really hard.
I don't know if you talked about this already on your videos.
I mean, I've mentioned that I'm like self-employed and kind of what I do.
No, I just meant like the feelings.
No, not really, actually. Yeah, and that's something to that's significant too, because I did feel like, I mean, I was so desperate to work for myself. A lot of it came down to my mental health, because I think I've said before, like the 9-to-5 structure definitely wasn't good for my mental health, at least not at the time. I just didn't have a good mindset about it, and it just, a more flexible schedule works for me. So, but when I did make that jump, I dealt with a lot of, I went into it with the wrong mindset of like, you work for yourself, so you have to be working 24/7, basically. Like, you're not allowed to take a break, because if you're not taking a break, you're not making money. And so that led to a lot of anxiety for me. And I remember mentioning to you many times, like, how bad stuff was for me. Like, I was just not happy.
Yeah.
So, so it's hard. It's hard. There can be a lot of freedom with your mental health when you work for yourself, but you every day you're having to work on your mindset a little more. Like, you do have to be careful about that, like how you approach it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny because, you know, with my, I guess, current / old position, because nothing's really been put through quite yet, but I was a management of the personal training department of the gym I work at. I moved up into that position because I thought that eventually I'd want to own my own gym. Fitness business, whether it's a gym or it's an online programming or whatever it is. So I felt like I needed to learn the business side of it more, the managerial side of things a little bit more. And I had the position for about a year and a half. June 2017 is when I in earnest started working the position. And only recently, this weekend actually, I decided to step down again to be a trainer, because there are aspects that I just, you know, as I get older, I think I'm more mindful of what are the things I can control for my mental health. You know, there's some things you can't. Like I said, when I have my down moments, it's nothing that I can explain. It's nothing
Yeah.
there's nothing that even I can really do about it, right?
Yeah.
You always ask me, hey, is there anything I can do?
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess you can
I just
dovetail
wanted-
into that.
Well, yeah. If you waned to finish your thought from before.
Yeah.
If you wanted
Oh,
to
no,
into
go
that.
ahead, because this kind of has a lot to do with it. So if you want to...
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. Yeah, like when you are having like, yeah, because because depression is different for everybody.
Right.
For you, yours is more like these shorter depressive episodes.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I don't know what I would call it exactly, but it's not, because some people, they experience depression like it's over a longer period of time, like weeks or months or something. But yours
Sure.
are kind of just more like these like shorter moments that you just feel really low, right? And you just don't feel like there's a way to get out of them. You just have to because you've told me before that you just have to kind of like let them pass. Like you kind of just have to wait it out. Is that how you, like, is there anything that you actively try to do to like help yourself during that moment, or something that, that I do or that I could do that would help, or like...
Well, the very fact that you're interested in hearing about it does help.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
when I do talk about it, that helps. Even if it doesn't directly stop it from happening. It doesn't directly say, well, that's all that needs, hey, I talked
usually not
about it,
that
it's
simple.
out there,
Yeah.
and now it's through me.
Mm-hmm.
But it does go a long way to acknowledging what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have someone that understands in your life. When you have a spouse or you just have a best friend or whoever it is that you can trust enough to confide these feelings of fragility. I think, especially in men, I find that we are very, for lack of a better term, proud. Too proud to admit when we have a weakness. It's a very masculine quality to stifle your emotions, sadness, anger,
Unfortunately,
and hold it in. I don't even want to even say necessarily that's a bad thing. It depends on people's coping mechanisms for it. If people internalize it and then slowly externalize it through healthy means, like working out, like writing, like what is like doing well at their job, they channel it into performing well, then maybe there is something to that. There is some sort of grounding that they can channel it to, even if it's not verbalizing it. So I don't necessarily want to even say that verbalizing is the best solution. However, I think that acknowledging it's important. And acknowledging that it's something that is askew, that's not wrong, doesn't make you weird, it doesn't make you weak. It's just something that you're dealing with. It's something that's in your mind. It's part of your DNA. It's part of your makeup. And you learn how to work around it, how to mitigate it, and how to apply it maybe in ways that are productive or ways that are beneficial to you, at least for your own sake, so you don't drive yourself insane with grief or insane with depression or rage, or whatever issue people are dealing with. Sometimes it's just a means of, it's not anything, it's because like I said, sometimes there's not an identifiable stimulus that causes these things. Most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's just, had a great day, and I'm driving home and I start getting bummed. And it's not even anything that entered my mind on the drive home. Usually when I'm driving home, I'm listening to XM radio and laughing. Usually I'm enjoying my, it's not even anything like that where I'm like left to my own thoughts. I'm thinking, oh man, what is life? Or whatever things people pontificate when they're upset or when they're at their lowest moments. I think a lot of times you do have to just kind of understand that it's part of you and let the ebb and flow of that process, as long as that's how it works for me with these smaller episodic things that probably generally last no longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah, not that I noticed.
Sometimes several, like sometimes for like entire hours, afternoons, if it's like a day off and I just feel weird during the day because there's nothing I can like do, because usually on my day off I don't do anything like exercise. Sunday is the one day off I have from everything physical.
Sundays are like your sacred day. Like it's good for you to not have anything.
I work at a gym.
Discovered that.
I work at a gym, so I want my day off from the gym to be my day off from anything related to the gym, including physical fitness, and so sometimes when I don't but then the reason I like working out is because it is an outlet for emotions or for things. Like when I have my best workouts, when I'm either at my happiest or when I'm at my angriest.
Put your emotion into it.
Yeah. And maybe it's healthy, maybe it's not. But when I don't have that, sometimes I'm left to my own left to my own thoughts a little bit more, and I kind of look inward a lot more in a way that's nitpicking. I start nitpicking things I could do. I could be doing with my time. Could be doing with my life.
I can relate to that a lot because I know it's better now. It was worse when I had a Monday through Friday job. Sundays always made me really, really anxious because I was like, I know the week ahead is coming.
Yeah.
And it was typically, I didn't have a job that I really liked. So it was like, okay, I have this one day to do anything that I want to do, like outside of work. And there'd be like all these different things that I want to do, but I also wanted to rest, you know, to like recharge for the week.
Right.
So you almost get like in your head, like you don't know what you want to focus on, like what you want to accomplish, and then realizing that you just have a day for it. Right. I don't know if you relate to that, but that's how like I often would feel. And I mean, sometimes I still do, but
well, and I think I'm less depressed than I used to be. So this is the other thing. I've incrementally gotten happier with what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. So when I first went to college, I was in pre-med because I was a grade A student, top of the list with academia. Got into an honors science college with Michigan State University. So I was in a position that if I wanted to go the medical route, I have the tools to do that. Mm-hmm. So of course, and as you hear as a kid, and as people who are not necessarily fully informed of these things, are like, hey, well, you should be a doctor then. Mm-hmm. Of course, doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Yeah.
Dentist. These are the things that these are the lucrative careers that you go into because of course those are the big ones that those are the only big ones you can aspire to achieve a fulfilling life because it's financially lucrative. And then people like to make those associations where financial success equals success, like just general success in terms of quality of life. And that's the more I've aged and experimented with new things, either just new careers or new hobbies, things that I found I really love. Mm-hmm. I've gotten more, these episodes of depression became fewer and farther between because there were, I mean, when I was younger, it was days long, like weeks long.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Absolutely was. Yeah. Absolutely. And like I said, part of that you can attribute to puberty, being uncomfortable in your own skin, trying to find out who you are.
It's a hard time of life.
Yeah. So I don't want to even say that it's not. I don't even want to say necessarily it was clinical. It was actual depression, like something that was chemical in my brain. Now I can say that it probably was because I deal with it now. Mm-hmm. Even being more secure with my personality, I'm fully formed probably in my personality. But I do think nurture takes a lot. It should take more credit than I think people give it than genetics. I think the nature versus nurture thing. I mean, I studied my undergrads in environmental biology and zoology. Mm-hmm. Okay, I studied behavioral biology and all these things. Genetics was a big part of my undergrad. So the more I learned about genetics, the more you learn about genetics is a very small percentage of you. It's about 30%, give or take. Of who you are as a person, things that you are born with that are just activated at birth or various points in your growing up, mm-hmm. and the rest of it you kind of bring upon yourself through your surroundings, through your parenting, through the friends you make, the acquaintances you make, the jobs you take, mm-hmm. and the things you experience. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what's contributed to my depression, maybe it was related to things I was surrounded by. Hence why now I'm happier now. Therefore, I'm having less episodes, mm-hmm. right? So I think there is something to that. Yeah. And as I keep making decisions, I'm a very pragmatic person. When I was younger, everything was about practicality because I was taught to be that way. Mm-hmm. Think about logistics. Think about how practical something is versus your passions or versus your gut versus things that you just feel. Right. As I continue to listen more to my feelings, I think that's when I start doing things that are now some things aren't always going to work out in my favor, aren't always going to be what you imagine them to be. How could they be? I mean, statistically, you're bound to make a decision that's not what you expect, and you have to. But you got to make those risks. Mm-hmm. As I take more risks, and more often than not, they are good things. Mm-hmm. I become happier, and therefore, I don't get as randomly bummed mm-hmm. as I used to.
That makes sense.
As I decided now I'm going to pursue at least more regularly, more rigorously my music interests, my music writing interests, probably my acting interests again. These are things that I've always loved. Yeah. And
those are forms of expressing yourself.
Sure.
And I feel like, we know that like men are, compared to women, I would say, much less encouraged to express their emotions.
Oh yeah, there's no
and
question
I mean,
about
art
it.
is a form of expression, so it
Right.
makes sense that that's like.
Well, yeah, and hence why
That
art.
makes you feel fulfilled.
Yeah, and hence why male artists are often the most sensitive, the most empathetic of men are the ones that actively that give people their expressions, like, you know, in product or content that they produce, whether it's music, whether it's a performance or writing, or poetry or painting, right? Obviously, those careers are still, you know, largely male. So obviously, those are the places I think where you should go if you are at all struggling to figure out an outlet for that. If just talking about it isn't enough, I feel like
well, and you're not really encouraged to talk about it much. I mean, you probably didn't. I mean, I feel like you were often encouraged to be, like, not to stifle your, like, if you were upset or something.
I was never, I was certainly never, I didn't, my dad is not a, like manly man, military, like, you push down your feelings, be a man. No, that's not what it was. I was afraid to. It was just me being afraid to.
But why do you think you were afraid to? You think it was the view of society, the way society kind of...
Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. Because I don't know, okay, maybe it wasn't fear. Maybe it was just I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I was a shy kid.
Okay, yeah.
So with my friends, you know, I pretty much had, you know, a group of friends, but really my best friend John, I mean, still my best friend. He was my best man in my wedding last year. And then I had Andrew, one of my other friends. Aside from those two, all my other friends, and close enough, we would hang out outside of high school and stuff, the group that we were in. But even then, I looked to them more for entertainment. Separating myself from the things I was feeling. Only when I became an adult did I start talking with John and my friends about deeper things. Honestly, I talk with my friends that I've made since moving to Texas more about deep things. Yeah. Some of my closest friends I met in my new job here. And those are the people I confide in way more than my friends in high school. So I think when you're in high school, it is for better or worse, more about just enjoying your youth and then finding common interests and enjoying those together. You know, we liked wrestling, we liked Simpsons, we would always spend the night at each other's houses every weekend. That was awesome for me, and I think that helped a lot. You know, having that close friend, actually, that's probably what helped me stay strong when I would feel bad getting into college, obviously, and not, you know, get to the point where I was ever, you know, suicidal. Never got to that point because I think I had such good relationships. Because I was never picked on in high school either. Rather, sometimes verbally messed with, teased, but that was very few and far between. I was a tall kid. I was always 6'2" when I was in like ninth grade. So no one really ever picked on me. I was just kind of a pariah, just kind of buried in the crowd. Succeeding at academia, like I got some good marks from my teachers and stuff, so they knew of me. But I just, aside from like the cliques and I was kind of just there, and I was okay to be there. I think I just never talked about it because I just didn't feel like it needed to be talked about. I just felt like this is just I'm feeling this. Let's explore that. What I want this is. Yeah. I never got to the point where it was self-hatred or anything like that. Yeah. Thankfully.
I wish we would. I think it would help kids a lot, though, to kind of let them know more that it's okay to, like, explore the way they're feeling and not. Because I know, like, even when I was starting college, like, things were really hard for me. The transition was really hard for me. Being away from home and, like, just dealing with, like, well, I've talked about before, like, I was dealing with a lot of, like, really, like, binge eating, disordered eating, and was probably covering up, like, a lot of anxiety and just depression from being away from home. And anyway, and anytime that I would, like, kind of talk to an adult or somebody about it, it was kind of always approached as, like, well, oh yeah, well that's just how it is. You know, I felt that way in college too. And it didn't make me feel any better. It just made me feel like, oh, well, I must be really weak because I can't deal with this. Whereas, like, it would have been better for someone, like, to ask me more about how I was feeling, maybe even, like, go and talk to somebody, you know, and then learn coping mechanisms for how to deal with how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, I don't know. Do you think there's a big difference between how it's approached for, like, men versus women?
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Of course there is. Yeah. I think for men, you find a way to mask it. You find a way to like, work around it.
Yeah.
And
Which
and
I
like
wonder what the long term
push through it, like, and not that you don't feel it, but like you're looking at like, how do I push through that?
Yeah.
Instead of actively feeling it. And I think women are more, again, I think women are just more comfortable with just immediately externalizing what's on their mind.
Yeah.
Which, of course, often when you're in a relationship, men can be like, oh, she's always, like wants to talk about it, whatever, talk about her day and this and that. I mean, I think that's a good thing. But that, I think that is a good thing. And I mean, I feel like there are different schools of thought on this. I feel like either way either way is equally as helpful. Either you're working through it and not letting it control you. Like I think the male thing is like, no, I'm just going to work through it. There's a difference between working through it and ignoring it. Okay, to be fair, if you're acknowledging it, like I always acknowledge it, and I'm just consciously trying to feel it, work past it, and get on with my day. I think that is fine. I think that is fine.
Instead of like trying to stuff it down and ignore that it's happening.
I think when you're stuffing it down and pretending it's not there, like if you ask me how my day is, and I go, oh, it's good.
Yeah.
And it's clearly, like I'm clearly bothered by something.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't do anyone any favors.
Yeah. That can become toxic, I think. It can become like...
Yeah.
Because you're never just expressing it and...
But then on the flip... but then on the same token, I mean, you can't help how you feel saying, well, it's just the way it is. Or worse, when people try to give you like, simply like, hey, well, maybe you should... go outside more. Maybe you should pick... And it's like, well, okay. Yeah, okay, maybe those things
can help.
Maybe those things can help. Yeah, maybe you got a little bit cabin fever and you're left with your own thoughts. I mean, you do need to get out, disconnect from your life. And there are aspects of that advice that is probably helpful. However, to say that it's simply a matter of you're upset, do something that makes you not upset.
Yeah.
Well, now you're dealing with things that are external when it's a very chemical internal thing you're dealing with, and you can't just turn off chemicals, or you have to counteract it with other chemicals, and sometimes it takes time, and everyone's brain and endocrine systems are different and don't always have efficient mechanisms for producing serotonin and dopamine, things that could counteract these things that make us upset.
Well, and I worry that when you tell people like, oh, just go outside, or like just think more positive, or
the vagaries of like that.
Yeah,
just don't think that way. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, stop being sad. Saying things like that, even though like, focusing on the positive can help in many situations, and doing things that make you feel better can help. It's kind of putting it on the, like, if somebody's very, very depressed, it's communicating to them that it's your fault that you're depressed. You need to change this to feel better. And it's not always that easy. And many times it's not. It's deeper than that. There's more going on. Like you said, it could be completely biological.
Yeah.
Right. Like chemical,
Well, I think we've talked about this before. I mean, mental illness is physical illness as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, to say that, I've never, you don't feel like doing anything when you're depressed. You don't feel like I don't feel like doing things I love. I don't feel like I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like playing guitar. I don't feel like writing. These are all things I love to do, but I don't feel like doing it because I'm just not in the mood to do it. And it's not because I'm choosing and just, it's not because it's not laziness, certainly. And it's certainly not that I know I'm not discounting how much I enjoy those things and how much they maybe even could help if I did them a little bit. But when you can't quantify, right, what's happening, other than just knowing what it is, kind of like, okay, this is a little bit of my depression kicking in. I'm just gonna meditate on this and relax. Where it's just like you're expected to actively do something to cure it or to fix it in the moment. Maybe it mutates over time because different things can depress you when you're in your adulthood than when you're a 16-year-old boy or girl.
Yeah.
So there is this sense that sometimes you can't try to overanalyze it. Sometimes it is just
which I'm very prone to doing.
Sometimes it is just a presence and some sort of chemical presence. I don't even want to say entity. That makes it sound really ominous. But sometimes it is something that's just flowing through your brain. It's doing a little bit of damage in the short term. It's affecting your body, making you feel fatigued, making you feel physically downtrodden, burnt out. But maybe that's just a symptom of this depression virus, and you just need to let your body do what it needs to counterbalance it, or get rid of it,
or get professional help,
or get professional help if it's severe. Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to say if it's serious, because all degrees can be. All degrees
all degrees are valid.
Of course.
All degrees are valid. However, there are some, yes, of course, where now you get to the point where you're more depressed than happy. You're maybe hurting yourself. You may be blaming others, lashing out. That's all things that now maybe it's gone beyond your own body being able to contain it. It's something that probably your body is lacking the resources to do, whether it is some hormone that's not quite firing properly, or it's something else entirely, right?
Yeah. So we're getting to about half an hour, so I thought we could maybe just kind of like wrap it up with one more question.
Yeah, sure.
So what advice would you give to any men who are watching this who might be struggling with their mental health or feeling like maybe alone in it, or what advice would you give for them to like maybe possibly like help them feel better? Or
the first thing is you need to realize, I would say that you need to realize two things, okay? You need to realize that there are things, maybe there's something that's contributing to your lack of more consistent happiness. If it's something that's just starting, then maybe just something that is contributing to this, and you need to look inward a little bit and think about your own life and happiness when it pertains to career. I'm not speaking about those kind of things. Sometimes we do things for others, admirable, but when we do things for others at the behest of our own mental illness, that's a problem. And I'm of the belief that you need to put yourself first, right? Yourself and your spouse, of course. These are all the important people in your life. But if you're doing stuff to appease them at the sacrifice of something you want to do, that's never something you need to worry about. That's never something you should have to do as a sacrifice. That's like legitimately sacrificing your happiness, and then you're living with that. Now you're being depressed because of something you did for someone else. And it's hard to think like this. So it's okay to have those thoughts. I'd say take steps to, over time, correct those things. If it's things you can correct. On the other part, I mean, if you have people you trust, people that you respect, people that love you, you love them, even in that manly, I love you, dude, kind of way, like your best friends, they care about you enough to spend as much time as they do with you. If they're people you call, I mean, depending on how hyper masculine you like to pretend you are, it's okay to talk it to someone, even if it's in a white glove kind of like, hey, can I just, is it you kind of like rant about it, even if it's not fully like having a deep conversation. Externalizing it's important. Yeah. And I feel like people that care about you enough are willing to listen. Take their advice for a grain of salt. They're certainly not professionals. It's psychiatric professionals or therapists. But sometimes that's all we need is knowing that someone's listening and that someone understands. And maybe even who's going through it, you don't ever know if someone's going through it as well unless you ask them. And maybe they now feel comfortable to talk about things experiences they've had. And now you've gotten closer. There's a bond and you have confidants that you can go to about this if it's something that's small. My advice is to always talk about it. Don't hold it in. I held it in for so long. Only now I'm starting to realize that there are people that you can talk to in your life. You have friends like that, and I feel like you were saying that once you open up to them or vice versa, it kind of opened up a dialogue more. Y'all lean on each other. Well, yeah, and it's an unspoken thing sometimes. I know if I call one of my best friends, I know if it's about anything serious or goofy, I know he'll give me the time of day. He'll always drop it. He'll talk and make me feel better, or at least just, I don't know, not make me feel better, but make me feel heard. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't make you feel better. Maybe you just got to let it flow through you. It's okay to do that too, and just let it run its course. But to feel that you're being heard is important, I think, for knowing that it's not the end of the world and knowing that it is something that's normal that people also go through besides you. Yeah. And I think that's... And it affects all genders. It's not just... Yeah. It's not weakness. That's the other thing. It's not weakness. Yes. It's never weakness. I love that. That's very weakness is arrogance, as far as I'm concerned. Like, arrogance is weakness. Arrogance is essentially thinking you're above regular human emotions and interactions, and it's just not the case. No one is above... the need for others, or the need for companionship, the need for friendship and camaraderie. Totally agree. Awesome. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add, or? I mean, I could talk about this stuff a lot.
We could do another video, later on, talking about a different topic.
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly another big thing, I mean, maybe at a later point we'll discuss is certainly about things like in the world of fitness, like things like body image issues and body dysmorphia and things like that.
We should have talked about that. We'll do another one about that.
Maybe that's a special episode we can do. I can come back and do that because that's. I mean, I deal with that professionally with myself, personally, and professionally with clients I work with and people I meet.
That.
That's a whole other thing. It's a very specific sect of depression and mental issues. So that's something we could talk about.
We'll do a video on that. Because I want to talk about that too.
Okay, so Emily, I appreciate you having me on.
This is very
strange. I feel very on the spot, and I've even performed before, but this is very strange. I haven't done the videos where I'm talking out of camera, pretending it's someone I'm talking to. So this is interesting.
Now you know what it's like for me.
It's very, very
awesome.
Very
well, thank you for being
on.
Of course. This is my first guest. If you guys liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content, and if you have anything else to add that helps you with your mental health, whatever your gender is, feel free to leave a comment below, and I will talk to you later. Bye!